Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining me on this, the second attempt at the 8th of hopefully many episodes of Bard Advice. My name is Charles, or Chaz, or Yazik, or the DM. I have many names, but y'all know who I am. So, couple of things before we really get into anything. Just to get started, just to remind everyone to please send your questions to bardadvice@gmail.com. I will do my best to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Now, I know everybody wants to talk about stuff as to like OGL and what happened with last week's stream, etc., etc., so we will get into those things. But just want to get a couple of the housekeeping items out of the way. Bardadvice@gmail.com, send questions. You can get merch at manshorts.com. So, now that I got those things out of the way, last week I had a major issue, again, with streaming. And if I'm honest, I think that it has to do with my... internet connections. I don't know why the YouTube is telling me that I need to stream at a lower rate now, but I changed ISPs. So hopefully that'll help. Hopefully issues don't continue. Things, we will see. Honesty. What? So, got the t-shirt and shorts last week. Oh, cool. Thanks, Chris. I'm glad. So, hey, everyone. I know that there's a lot, obviously, going on with the OGL. Wizards released their statement earlier today, and it is... Well, we're going to go through it, I think. This podcast episode, assuming that all goes well and it continues, might end up being a little bit different than it typically is in terms of structure. Rolling stats help make the character yours. Some prep selected ingredients. Yeah, I guess that's true. That's why they didn't like it. So, oh my gosh, YouTube, stop telling me what to do. All of this stuff. So, people are unsubscribing to D&D Beyond because of the new OGL. Yeah, that's true. I am seeing that a lot. I'm seeing a lot of people say that. People probably are doing it because the OGL statement that Wizards released today seemed to be like very PR spin. Not that you would expect anything different. They are a billion-dollar corporation, after all. The statement is, we'll soften the blow. Please stop canceling your subs. Yeah, pretty much. Hey, Zachary, how are you? Hey, Todd. Todd says he did it yesterday. They might be feeling that. I mean, if a bunch of them did, I don't think I've ever paid for D&D Beyond. I have like an account and stuff, but I've never paid them. Yeah, money talks. If people start walking, who knows? But we can definitely talk about very vaguely selected word choice. Yeah, well, dude, it's totally a legal document. This is you know what I think the biggest problem is, I think, with the OGL, is that for the longest time, the OGL was like a document that wasn't infected with legalese and like trapdoors and stuff, because a lot of contracts, probably most, are filled with that kind of stuff. But the OGL wasn't, and that's what made it unique and great. This is not that. Whatever they're doing, I don't think that I'm not over the moon with the way that they reacted to I'm not over the moon with the statement. But we can get into that later. A little bit. I do want to address some questions this episode because I don't want to make it just an hour talking about OGL, although I'm sure that we could. KMS Bean I did because I'm running Foundry on Sundays. All my players get great stuff as part of my subscription. Oh, I see. Yeah, see, this is I think a thing too that they maybe didn't consider is that like people use D&D for other D&D Beyond for other stuff. I didn't realize also that they bought Roll20. Isn't that true? I don't know. I don't want to get ahead of myself with saying stuff when I don't know the full information. We're going to go through the official statement. I mean, I guess that we could do that first. I'll tell you what. Is River here? Because River's the first question. If River's here and you want me to just talk about OGL, I'll do that. But if it's as bad as it said, you'll just move on to some other TTRPGs. Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. Also, to be clear about like where my stance is on everything, I made a couple of TikTok videos about this. A couple of days ago when the news came out, I made one where I tried to kind of like I tried to play devil's advocate from like a positive standpoint and like looked at it as like, okay, well maybe this is going to mean that we have like an explosion in the space of competitors, which we've already seen is happening, and we will continue to see. So, you know, maybe it might not end up being such a bad thing, but, you know, the more that I looked into like what the whole, you know, what the new OGL was supposed to say, and then now this goofy PR statement that I guess is supposed to make us believe that they have our best interest in mind. Like, I don't know. It just seems weird. More or less it says they could steal it without buying it because it's their IP. Well, yeah. That's the trouble with copyright law. And all of the ironclad, you know, changes that were made to it back in the day. But yeah, I do think that ultimately, I made a recent video on TikTok yesterday or the day before where I had mentioned that I felt like I had figured it out because maybe it's rage marketing. Right? Because like they at least intend or hope, I would expect, to make a bunch of money on the movie. And so they're going to have money to spend. And so if they make everyone angry, right? Just hear out this crazy theory of mine. But like if they make the community angry nerds get stuff done, right? They changed Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't know if younger people like respect the gravity of that just in terms of like how much that speaks to how things are changing in terms of content creation and like the power, the quote unquote power of the people in that regard, because that would have never happened when I was a kid. Like you just got whatever the shitty movie was. It was just like, no, here it is, just deal. And now we live in this world where it's like, hey, well, if you do some shit that's like stupid or goofy or out of pocket, like your fan base or your customers or whatever it is going to call you out on it. So I think that I don't necessarily think that they leaked it on purpose or that they put the information out there on purpose, but I don't think that they think it's the end of the world. In fact, I think in the long game, it might end up being kind of smart because what they're doing with making the community angry is that they're seeing where people flock. They're seeing where they go to, and they're looking, and they're taking notes, and they're watching all of this stuff. They're going to probably watch this. I know that I put a link also in the description for everybody to our buddy Will from D&D Shorts video about it. He made a video about it earlier. And he's a smart guy. He goes through it, and I think he does a pretty good job of like going through. I would like to go through it as well, but anyway, what you do is when you make all of those people angry and you see where they go in the community, and then those other places in the community start building stuff and creating their own games or supplements or what have you, then you just buy those places. Because like Wizards made $1 billion last year. I don't know if people realize the gravity of that either, just in terms of like how huge of a corporation they are. I don't think people realize. I think the average people, especially those outside of the community, I don't think understand. They're like, oh, D&D, that's goofy. What do they make, $100 on that? And it's like, no. These companies are making like millions and hundreds and hundreds of millions and $1 billion. That's a lot. And they can only expect that to go up after the release of the movie, right? Like even with all of this PR, they can only expect to grow. And so with that said, they're going to have a bunch of new players that hop onto the movie. Because remember, there's kids that are going to want to go and see this movie. They're not as plugged in. I mean, granted, they're more plugged in than my generation was, but they're not as plugged into stuff like this, these kind of conversations in the community. Maybe they are. I don't know. Maybe I'm showing my age. Maybe the younger kids are more hip with it and into it than I was, or than we were, rather. But there's going to be a bunch of kids, I think, that see it, and they're going to want to play. And so they're going to need content. And as we all have seen from, well, they've been better in the last couple of years, but they haven't been the best place for content in terms of like new stuff. Thus, all of these other places where you can get content. So they're going to need more. So they can just buy those places. Once they figure out where people are going, then they just buy those places. And now and all roads lead back to D&D anyway. Yeah, you know what? To heck with it. It doesn't matter. I don't think the river would care. Let's talk about it. Let's go read what their statement was. I have it pulled up in my... Oh, look at me, dude. Cool. I'm like a streamer. Check me out. Okay. So this is the official statement, I guess, that they posted on D&D Beyond. This is from 11 hours ago. So let's just go through this because, as I said, I put a link to the video where Will went through it. I think that he did a really good job. I would like to address this thing because we're going to see what's going on with this. So when we initially conceived of revising the OGL, don't know why he did that anyway. Why? It was with three major goals in mind. First, we wanted the ability to prevent the use of D&D content from being included in hateful and discriminatory products. Don't need that. DMCA covers that. Second, we wanted to address those attempting to use D&D and Web3 blockchain games and NFTs by making clear that OGL content is limited to tabletop role-playing content like campaigns, modules, and supplements. I don't think that anybody thought that they weren't going to be able to sell original NFTs related to D&D. I don't think that that was ever the problem. I think that they're aware that that was never the problem, and they're just saying that as just like a thing to be like, oh, I see. It's almost as if they're like, look at what we did. Like, we just wanted to clarify. And it's like, that didn't need clarification. So, right? Like, I mean, maybe I'm a little out of the loop and out of touch, but like, right? So, moving on. And third, we wanted to ensure that the OGL is for the content creator, the homebrewer, the aspiring designer, our players, and the community. Not major corporations to use for their own commercial and promotional purpose. Okay, so like, remember earlier we were talking about how Wizards of the Coast made $1.2 or $1.3 billion in 2021. So they're not like interested in what's best for the home brewer or any other of those buzzwords they used, I guess, to like get relation, like for me to relate to, like, oh, I'm a content creator. Oh, is it for me? And it's like, no, dude, the original OGL was for everybody. The original OGL was for these people. I don't know what this new thing is. And we still don't even know what it officially is, but anyway, let's keep going. Driving these goals were two simple principles. Our job is to be good stewards of the game. Well, yeah, that's true. And then two, the OGL exist, which is like, that's crazy to reconcile. Two, the OGL exists for the benefit of the fans. Like, this, you know what this reminds me of? Blizzard. There's that video from years ago where they're having a panel at like they're having a panel at some con or something. I guess it was for like the new release of one of the games. I'll be forthright. I've never played any Warcraft games. I have a lot of friends that have. Not that I have anything against the series. I've just never played it. I couldn't focus on all of those hotkeys. Anyway, this guy stood up in the audience to ask a question, and his question was, do you have plans, you being Blizzard, do you have any plans or have you considered plans for re-releasing vanilla, which was like the original one, right? Like re-releasing vanilla as it was, or really any of those older versions, because I guess from what I understand with Warcraft is that it like just keeps getting updated and like you can't really go back. Anyway, that doesn't matter. The point of all of this is that like he says, do you have any plans to do that, right? Like release vanilla as it were, as it was. And the dude was like, you don't want that. And I feel like that's happening here, right? Like the OGL leaked, and then the internet lost their minds, right? Like the D&D community and like really the TTRPG community in general was just like going crazy. And then they released a second one. And they released this, or I should say not a second one, but like, the next part of the story was their like official announcement. And in their official announcement, in the first paragraph, they're like, this is for you guys. Like, just to be clear, we understand, we see, we hear you. You're pissed, and we're doing it for you. It's like, what does that mean? That doesn't really say anything. These principles has never wavered for a second. Like, I don't know, dude. This was why our early drafts of the new OGL included the provisions they did. That draft language was provided to content creators and publishers so their feedback can be considered before anything was finalized. Yeah, have we confirmed whether that's true? I mean, like, we could go to the content creators directly, although there might be NDAs, so they probably wouldn't be able to talk, at least without, like, concern of lawsuits. In addition to a language allowing us to address discriminatory and hateful conduct, bringing that back up again for some reason, remember, that's covered by DMCA. So, like, they don't need to do anything to the OGL for people to not make hateful stuff. If people make hateful stuff, even under the original OGL, like, they can go and take that away with DMCA. It was never our intent to impact the vast majority of the community. I mean, what did you think was gonna happen, though, Wizards? Like, what did you think? What did you think? How did you think people were going to react? And this is why I think that it's like rage marketing, because like they're kind of playing silly and stupid here, where they're like, oh man, look guys, I mean, if we would, I mean, we were doing this for you. If we would have known that you were going to get upset about it, oh man, with this, I mean, we wouldn't have even done anything. And it's like, okay, well, prove it. If that's true, then don't do it. We're pissed, right? Clarifying what types of, here it is. The draft language was provided to content creators and publishers so their feedback can be considered before anything was finalized. An additional language allowing us to address discriminatory and hateful conduct, and clarifying what types of products the OGL covers. Also, nobody was confused. Our drafts included royalty language designed to apply to large corporations, like you, attempting to use OGL content. It was never our intent to impact the vast majority of the community. Oh, we already read that stuff. I guess I just like missed it because I was worried about it was never our intent. Oh, that seems crazy. However, it's clear from the reaction that we rolled a 1. It has become clear that it is no longer possible to fully achieve all 3 goals while staying true to our principles. So here's what we're doing. Oh, hilarious. So it's your fault. So it's our fault? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying, Wizards? Like, look, we were going to do this thing, and we were going to do it for you, remember? And, to keep hate out of the game. And we were going to do it for you also. And we were doing it for you. And you know what? It's become clear that we can't achieve those goals of all of that great stuff that we want to do for you. We're doing it for you while staying true to our principles. So here's what we're doing. Let me pull this back up so people can like read along. Oh, everybody's still with me. I feel like I'm going on like a bit of a rant, but in reality, I'm just reading through and reacting to this document, to this statement. The next OGL will contain the provisions that allow us to protect and cultivate the inclusive environment we are trying to build, and specify that it covers only content for TTRPGs. Still hammering on this. Like, what? Listen, I've seen a lot of posts in the last couple of days about this. I've seen a lot of TikToks. I've seen a lot of people posting on Instagram. I've seen a lot of YouTube videos. Not one of them has been like, Man, this OGL thing is going to totally screw up my NFT blockchain. You know, if this OGL wasn't messing up, Web3 blockchain games, we would be good. We would be good if it wasn't doing that. But, like, nobody was doing that. Okay. Back to the thing. That means that other expressions such as educational and charitable campaigns, again, just mentioning a bunch of stuff that nobody mentioned before they did. Live streams, cosplay, VTT uses will remain unaffected by any OGL update. Content already released under 1.0 will also remain unaffected. I don't think that's true. I don't buy that. Then why? Why go to all the trouble to make an OGL if you're going to honor the original? Then why would anybody use the new one? That's just a lie. I don't believe that. What it will not contain is any royalty structure. I don't know. I don't believe that either. It also will not include the license back provision that some people were afraid was a means for us to steal work. That thought never crossed our minds. Under any new OGL, you will own the content you create. We won't. Yeah, but see, that's a thing that like people that aren't content creators don't understand. So they can say that, right? Like ownership and distribution are different things. Like there are plenty of apps. Like I'm sure that TikTok has a bunch of verbiage about this when it comes to like what they own or rather what they have the rights to use or distribute for marketing purposes. That's another big loophole a lot of social media uses where they're like, oh, well, we would never use it, but we just want to point out that we could. So like you're getting into a slippery slope, I think, when you start saying stuff like that. But that's just like my opinion, man. That thought never crossed our minds under any new OGL. You own the content we create. We won't. Any language we put down will be crystal clear and unequivocal on that point. Well, you're not doing that so far, wizards. So you've not been clear. The original OGL information that came out was a leak. And yeah, you've not really been clear. This whole thing has been like kind of a goofy marketing just garbled mess. Like maybe they made maybe ChatGPT wrote this. Dude, imagine. That would certainly explain a lot of things. Okay, let's try and finish this up. As we continue to invest in the game that we love and move forward, I bet you love it. It makes you $1 billion. And move forward with partnerships in film, television, and digital games to make more billions of dollars. That risk is simply too great to ignore. Right. Because this is like the coincidental similarities before, like when in the history of ever has like Wizards been like about to fold because somebody from Paizo is going to sue them for using something. That doesn't happen. That's not a problem for them. I don't know what they're more, dude, Wizards has more money now than they've ever had. Ever. They made more money last year than they've ever made. And that's public record. You can see that. Like they're not struggling. This is not a scenario where they're like, "Oh man, guys, we were just trying to keep going and be great," and like, we don't want to steal other creators' work. It's like, what are you talking about? That's what the whole new OGL is about. Is about how like, hey, just keep in mind, like, you can't use our stuff without kicking us royalties, but like, we can totally use your stuff that you make with our stuff. Like, the new OGL will contain provisions to address that risk, but we will do so without a license and without suggesting we have the rights to content you create. Yeah, see, that's very important right here. This sentence is very important because technically this sentence is true, and it's a great one. This might be the smartest sentence of the whole thing, like legally speaking. The new OGL will contain provisions to address that risk, but we will do it without a license back and without suggesting we have the rights to the content you create, right? So that's what's key. It doesn't mean that they're not going to do it, and it doesn't mean that they can't do it. What it means is that they're not going to suggest that they own your content. And they shouldn't have in the first place, because there is a distinct difference between ownership and distribution when it comes to that kind of stuff. a couple of last thoughts. Thank God. Let's wrap this up. First, we won't be able to release the new OGL today because we need to make sure we get it right, but it's coming. Yay. Second, you're going to hear people say that they won and we lost by making your voices heard to change our plans. Those people will only be half right. They won and so did we. Listen, this is not about winning and losing. This is about if you, wizards, want to continue making billions of dollars. And that's really what it comes down to. Because, like, this has been happening in entertainment, right? I've talked about this before, but I'm going to say it again. This has been happening in entertainment where the gatekeepers are disappearing. We've already seen it. Really, we saw it with YouTube, but it didn't really ramp up until, like, pandemic time, when everybody went inside. And I'll tell you, because that was one of our best years, and it's bittersweet. When all the COVID pandemic stuff was going on, everybody was home. They were watching YouTube. We did very well that year. 20 years ago, we wouldn't have been the best that we could have hoped for in 1996 would have been public access cable. And now you can afford to exist in your own lane. You can afford to have your own self-sustaining base of fans and people that pay for your stuff. And you can do it without being a corporate monster. Now, there are still a lot of corporate monsters. Our country is overrun by them, seemingly. But let's finish up this thing before I totally lose my mind. It's just like nobody's saying they won, dude. We're all still pissed, okay? Let's just make that clear. Let's just confirm that. Let's make it crystal clear, as you say. Still mad. Like, there are no winners here. Unless you are indeed doing the rage marketing thing that I think you're doing, in which case, I mean, well done. Our plan was always to solicit the input of our community before any update to the OGL. Well, we know that's not true, right? We know that's not true because the first that we heard of the new OGL was when it was done. Like, and I know that they said up there earlier that it was draft, but like I've heard, I don't know how true it is, but I've heard that it wasn't draft. It was like real deal and people were supposed to sign it and stuff. So it's like, that's not true either. Don't act like that. It's not like D&D Beyond had this post on the front page where they were like, hey, we need your help. Because if they did, this wouldn't have happened. So, yeah, that's not real either. The drafts you've seen were attempting to do just that. We want to always delight fans and create experiences together that everyone loves so you can keep making billions of dollars. We realize we did not do that this time, and we're sorry for that. Okay, to what end? Our goal was to get exactly the type of feedback on which provisions worked and which did not. Yeah, most of them suck, which we ultimately got from you. You certainly did. Any change this major could only have been done well if we were willing to take that feedback, no matter how it was provided. So we are. Yeah, well, here you are. Thank you for caring enough to let us know what works and what doesn't. Oh, man, look at this. They're like, thanks, guys. Thank you. You know, we've been thinking about it. Thank you. What you need and what scares you. Whoa. Don't, like, assume my position, bro. I'm not afraid of you. Ain't nobody afraid of you, wizards. That's not the problem, bro. It's not scary. It's infuriating for people. It's really sad. But it's not scary. Remove that. Without knowing that, we can't do our part to make the new OGL match our principles. Oh, so good. Finally, we'd appreciate the chance to make this right. I mean, you had it. That's what this is. That's what this is, wizards. That's what that statement is. That was your chance to make it right. The OGL leaked like a week ago. And they just said nothing. And then they released this. Keep in mind, people, this wasn't just like a guy that was like, I'm going to put this up. A team worked on this. A team of people crafted this, reviewed it, spell checked it, made sure there weren't any errors. We love D&D's devoted players and the creators who take them on so many incredible adventures. We won't let you down. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's happened. The idea that you can't take a $1 billion corporation to task in court is exactly what they want you to think. Well, yeah, of course, right? That's like the Pepsi thing. My wife and I watched that crazy story. Yeah, dude, because look, these corporations have teams and teams and teams of lawyers, and they want you to think that not only do they have your best interest at heart, but that they're like you. But they're not like you. If they're a CEO that makes over $500,000 a year, they're in the top 1% of people in the country. Not like you. Okay? Your boy doesn't even make 6 figures. I'm a person. You're people. Those people, they're not really the same. Different thing. They don't understand. So, well, we got through it at least. And I'm starting to finally go back and look through some of the comments. You're workshopping tie-dye shirts. Oh, any color preferences? JMB. And favorite RPG video game. Okay, thank you, Jam. Yeah, dude, I want tie-dye. I like the pastels. I'm rocking a pastel now. I like the pastels. But you know what I need is like a good green one. I really need like a good, like a nice green. Wizards of the Coast once sued for court costs over their frivolous lawsuit. Yeah, by the way, also, another quick note, too. When I first looked this stuff up, I didn't realize that Tolkien had sued D&D back in the day. And the only reason that that's important is that in that case, it was determined that, like, a lot of stuff is public domain. And it makes me wonder how much Wizards is banking on people not knowing that either, right? Because like some people might get intimidated and think like, oh man, I've got to change all the races. And it's like, no, elves are public domain. Orcs are public domain. Most of the stuff is public domain, really. Like really all you wouldn't be able to do when it comes to copyright infringement is like use the actual names of stuff, which you wouldn't be able to do with any other thing. Except the term hobbit. Yeah. And there's, I think Balrog too. That's why they're called Balors or Balors. I think Balrog, they ruled that was Tolkien's. Pastels and green. Yeah. Thank you, Jam. That's dope. I appreciate it. Oh, and my favorite video game RPG is like Elder Scrolls. Gotta be. Yeah. I mean, I guess Mirror's Edge is technically an RPG, but like, Elder Scrolls. Elder Scrolls 4, Oblivion. I've played Skyrim, and Skyrim's okay, but I'll always like have a special place in my heart for Oblivion. It's probably nostalgia related. Tolkien Estate sued. Thank you. Resulting in hobbits becoming halflings. Thank you, Kirk. Yes, it was the estate. It was not Tolkien himself. You've also been sued by his estate. Oh, wow. Tried to claim white public domain. Yeah, dude, most of it's public domain. That's another thing I think that they're banking on people not knowing because it happened so long ago, right? It's like 20, 30 years ago. I mean, the old guard remembers. The OGs remember, dude. Anybody that played like OD&D, AD&D, those people know. Didn't Oblivion have Patrick Stewart as the king for a minute? Yes. It was indeed, the king was indeed voiced by Patrick Stewart. I love Next Gen. I was just thinking about that today. Cthulhu had to be pulled. Yeah, it's going to get weird. I think it's going to get weird. It's going to get tricky. You know, as I said, this podcast is very different from the others because it's just all about the OGL, but That's what it's going to be. That's what we're talking about, baby. That's what's going on in the community. You know, it's actually a little refreshing to see that like the rest of the world is like talking about the D&D community, because they don't often. Like, you know, when the trailer was out, like people were like, oh, what's this? But like now there's like, oh, I'm actually starting to see like news articles about it. And it's like, oh, this is cool. Like OGL is the hotness right now. Yeah, that's what everybody's talking about. They had permission, but the lawyers got scared and pulled it. Sherlock Holmes is public. Whoa, really? Oh, God. Like, we don't have enough of those properties. It's like Batman. It's like, how many more are we going to make? Didn't we tell the story? Make a new guy. Like another thing. What is it? Why do we have to have, like, the Avengers Part 8? Make a new guy. A team of underestimated people band together to take down seemingly impossible foes and loot bodies for gold. Really seems like we're the wrong audience to force into submission through intimidation. Yeah, that's true. Well, here's the thing about that. The suits don't know that. I don't know how many nerds are left in upper management at Wizards. Maybe none. But the suits for sure don't know that. And the suits are the ones who answer to the shareholders. They're the ones that are moving all of the money around. And listen, I know that this has kind of been like a smashing on Wizards like for the last half an hour. Let me be clear, like Wizards is their own company. They're free to do whatever they want. I'm not suggesting that they're doing anything illegal. I just think that it's incredibly out of pocket. And I think that it's going to ultimately hurt them, because even if they were doing this rage marketing theory that I have, I don't think it's going to pay off like they think it's going to. Especially if it's true that people are just like left and right canceling their subscriptions. But yeah, the suits, the people with money, the ones that actually make the decisions, they don't fucking know what's going on. And that's the case in any kind of real like monetized art. Ask any artist that like makes money on their art, and they'll tell you like there's a lot of people involved in the money making end that don't know anything about what it is to create or entertain or produce content. They know how to make money. And, you know, a lot of them are, you know, they look at stats and stuff, and that's all they care about. And all they care about is, you know, what's the stock price? What's the bottom line for, you know, how much money this thing is going to make us? And that's what a business's job is. Their job is to make as much money as possible while following the law. It's really sad to see that it's going, that it's doing, that this is happening. Oh, sorry, I keep looking over at my list of names, which I don't know why, because this turned into just to talk about OGL. You're surprised they're using D&D Beyond to post all of this stuff if they own the company for... Well, I think the reason they posted on D&D Beyond is try to catch the people that haven't left yet, right? They should have just had like a fucking press conference. Didn't they schedule a stream and then back out of it? It's not good. Lorraine Williams ruined TSR. Cynthia Williams ruining D&D all over again in business. Huh. Yeah, listen. I think that at the end of the day, Wizards is going to do what they're going to do. Wizards is gonna Wizards. I've had my own complaints and irritations about them for years, like with what they did with 5e, but I came to terms with the fact that, like, 3.5 still exists. I can still play 3.5. They didn't take it away from me. But this is just kind of a different thing, right? Because it speaks to, and, I don't know how it's going to affect us. If it's going to at all. I can't imagine that this directly would affect us, but next couple of years, looking down the road, might be a problem. Could be. They could probably make a case for a problem. They might make a statement at Dragon Con. I mean, they should. When is Dragon Con? Is that like this weekend? Because they totally should. They're supposed to have a video or a post yesterday. Someone said that nothing, then nothing. So Paizo was like, well, since everyone's paying attention. Yeah, dude, that was a baller move by Paizo. That was really smart. Because they're just like, oh, we're talking about D&D stuff? Hasbro is no Disney. Well, let's see. Let's look up Hasbro's revenue for 2021. Oh, shit. It's $6.4 billion. Okay, so in 2021, Hasbro made over $6 billion. Now, Wizards was responsible for 1.3 of that. That's a shitload. They must really expect to just ball out on this movie. 6 billion, and D&D was 1.3 of that. They essentially account for 30% of the revenue. And that's probably going to go up because I heard the Magic people are pissed. And I'm going to be looking into that to make a Magic edition. I don't know a lot about Magic. I have friends that have played and have cards. But I've heard they've been pissing off Magic. So, I mean, where else is money going to be coming in? Another quick note I'll make too is that like it's an interesting pivot for them if they're confident enough to believe that maybe they could just rely on new player acquisition, because a lot of corporations are structured that way. Like any kind of like telecommunications company or like security company or call center, that kind of stuff is like all about new customer acquisition. That's why if you want to buy some shit, you can buy it 24/7. You could just call and talk to somebody in your bathtub and buy stuff and make payments for stuff. But if you want customer service, those hours are 9 to 4, Monday through Thursday, and every second Friday and shit, So that said, like a lot of corporations focus heavy on customer acquisition because they reach a place where they're actually making more money on new customers or new players than they are on their existing. I can't imagine that that's the case with this, but the suits don't know that. They're just being suit. They're just being suits. That's like wizards are going to wizard, suits are going to suit. They don't fucking know what's going on. They're just trying to make the company more money. So they're like, oh. So they just came in there, then the meeting, and the CEO doesn't give a shit. He's just trying to get a bonus. So it's like, he or she, I should say. I don't know. Is it a woman? I thought I heard it was mentioned earlier that it was a woman. Wizards was 1.3 of that. The vast majority of Wizards' profit is from Magic. D&D only made 150 million. Oh. Wow. Well then, holy shit, dude. So part of this makes me feel like this fallout that they're suffering and trying to like push out this statement to like try and make everybody feel better is because, wow, D&D's not making money. I see that D&D number up here. It's something I just read in the chat, so to be fair, I haven't like fact-checked that. That's what Flint said. 150 million. Don't make Magic people mad. Yeah, that's true. You have to figure out how to squeeze more money out of each turnip. Yeah, and I think that's going to get increasingly difficult for them to do as we become more and more and more digital. Obviously, you're going to have people that still buy dice and want to like play in person, but because we are more capable online than we were even just like 5 or 6 years ago when it comes to playing D&D, it's going to continue to become more digital. And then they're maybe going to have to come up with like a way to like, something tells me it's going to end up being like a fucking freemium video game. I feel like within 5 years, it'll just be like a Warcraft type scenario where like you go log on and you have access to all your characters and you can play in the world and you can create your own maps and stuff. But I think that it's going to become a different thing. I am streaming about the OGL at the moment. We've been talking about the OGL. The OGL discussion. Microtransactions. Yeah. I mean, it seems foolish. It's upsetting. It's not scary. Lack of quality control, factory toy thieves, increasing prices. Is Wizards of the Coast still having to pay back all those tournament judges that won the labor board lawsuit? Oh, I don't even know about that. Yeah, I also heard somebody say something about how, like, you know, people from employees or screw it, I'm going back to 2E. Yeah, that's the other thing, too, is like we don't have to always just look forward. Stuff already exists. You could go play 3.5. Hey, are you pissed about 5E? Go play 3.5. Go play Pathfinder. Shit, while you're at it, Paizo's dropping that orc thing. Go play Pathfinder. Easy. Like, really not that difficult. Imagine thinking we're scared or calling us scared. Maybe they don't think it, but saying that was just like, listen, guys, we don't want to make this scary. It's like, nobody's scared. Apropos of nothing, I just discovered the Diggy Diggy Hole music. You'll only be able to get paper armor unless you buy their loot boxes. Yeah. It'll just end up looking like any of those. Have all the first edition stuff going. Yeah, I think it'll be cool, man. Like, I think ultimately this sucks, right? Nobody wanted this. The fans, most of all. Wizards seemed to be pretending that they didn't want this, but I don't know. I don't know. It seems like, it feels like that what's happening is what they wanted to happen. That's what it feels like. Let's go back to this thing. So essentially, they're just like, look, hey guys, look, we wanted to make some clarifications about some stuff, things that didn't need clarifying. Look, basically, we want to make a great game, and we want to do that for you. And it's like, oh, well, how could that be true? What with all of this information that's come out? And then they're like, listen, guys, we know we messed up. We realized that we couldn't achieve all of that, all of those shitty goals and not be shitty. We've thought about it, gang. And all of that stuff that makes us look like assholes, we've decided that we can't do that and also not be assholes. So here's what we're going to do. So bizarre. And the scare thing, that really gets at me. Thank you for caring enough to let us know what works and what doesn't. Always have done that. The community's always done that. They did it for 20 years under the original OGL. What you need and what scares you. That's out of pocket, man. I don't like that. If it don't say Gygax on the cover, it ain't D&D for me. Yeah, maybe. Listen, maybe this will make a really serious impact. It seems to already had. Like, for them to scramble that together, because that feels scrambled together, right? That feels like, you know, a couple of executives, maybe like a marketing assistant who actually, like, wrote the shit, you know? They don't get paid as much as, like, their boss, but they do all the work. That kind of stuff going on. It's just like a room full of people, and they're just like, fuck, how could we do this? What can we do? How can we tell them... How can we not look awful? Yeah, I mean, like, you doubled down on your Nat 1, as far as I'm concerned. People seem pissed. People seem more pissed now than they ever were. And listen, they could have owned it, right? They very well could have owned it. They could have just come out and been like, look, you know, we wanted to make sure that we protect our assets as we move forward with all this money that we plan on making. But they didn't do that. They made it seem like this thing where they were like, first of all, seemingly surprised that people were pissed. They were like, whoa, hey, whoa, guys, listen, hold on. Listen, all we were trying to do the whole time is what's best for you. That's what we were doing the whole time. I don't buy it. I think they're going to have to do better than that. At least for me, you know? And look, I don't really even play 5e, you know? This channel kind of like started as an accident. We didn't intend to make the D&Ds. They just kind of happened, and I'm happy with them. I enjoy doing them. We're going to do more of them moving forward in the future, but like, they might watch your stream and they might take something to heart. I doubt that. Dude, I've been bitching at Wizards for like 6 years. They don't know who I am. And if they do know who I am, they're not going to reach out to me. They don't want me. You don't want me in the room talking about stuff. I'll light people up. I'll rip into people. New to D&D, what is the issue? So essentially, welcome Lost. It's probably a lot. I'm coming in hot if you don't know what we're talking about. Essentially, the OGL was the Open Gaming License, and it's existed for several years, 20 plus-ish. Essentially, OGL allowed a community wherein D&D kind of belonged to the world, as it were. And back in the day, it served Wizards very well because it was free marketing. You know, they got to be like the mothership of that movement of all of these TTRPGs that were being made. And they encouraged people to do so with the OGL because, you know, roads lead back. They don't need that anymore, and they certainly don't need the competition. So they've released this new OGL. The leak of the OGL came out, and it's just full of a bunch of nonsense. That sat for about a week before Wizards finally said anything, and then today they recently, several hours ago, released a statement that I'm just not buying. Hey, Dad Pie Guy, how are you? I'm good. Just hanging. Just bitching about OGL. The leaks from employees have said management hates the fan base and third-party content creators. Yeah, probably, because the suits. It's the suits. The tone of that Wizards of the Coast statement reinforces that email leak the other day that said the execs just view customers as obstacles to their money. All executives view customers as that. Numbers, dude. People are numbers. Do you think the CEO of ADT gives a shit if people are protected by their security? Well, certainly they do to the extent that they keep making money. But, like, they're not up at night worried about, like, how they can make it safer. They're up at night worrying how they can get more customers. It's money and shareholders. And that's all it is. You follow the money, that's what's going on. We play characters who kill and loot for a living. This is the wrong crowd to piss off. Yeah, dude, it's true. It's murder hobos. You threw rocks at the murder hobos. Just seems foolish. And the magic people, dude, you couldn't pay me to piss off the magic community because those people, they took it to a different level when it comes to purchasing stuff. And you know, that's why they're rightfully pissed because Wizards has just like released all of this stuff and it's like screwing up the market and like, I don't know all of the ins and outs of the magic thing, but like they're pissing them off too. So you're contractually obligated to add Duval. We're in the playoffs. Can you believe it, gang? I can't. It seems crazy that we're in the playoffs. Some C-suite that has never played any TTRPG saw one too many Kickstarters using OGL, going over 1 million. Huh. Threw a box at the murder hobos. Yeah. Like, what are you doing? Why are you making us mad, right? We're the nerds, dude. That's the whole reason we made this game is to get away from this shit. That's part of it. Part of the deal is that you don't get along with mainstream ideology. And that's why you're in D&D in the first place. So this whole thing where they've just turned it into like Pepsi Cola, it's not going to go well for them because it's the people in the community that have propped them up. It's the people in the community that have just dropped so much money on content and books, and just for this to happen is just really unfortunate. Hopefully, they'll be able to come up with some sort of a legal medium. But I will say that, like, you know, one of the things that Will said in his video is that, like, you know, obviously if you have verbiage in the contract that says that you can change it at any time, then that's not going to be cool. And it's like, yeah, but that's the case with a lot of contracts, right? Like, this is what I was talking about earlier with like trapdoors and stuff that you don't expect. Like, that's kind of in all the contracts. It's usually towards the bottom, but it could be hidden in the middle. But it essentially is like under the lines of like, listen, you know, if we want to change anything, corporations do this all the time, dude. Read any terms and conditions for anything you own. And there's going to be stuff on there that talks about that. I just... Brennan Lee Mulligan once said, the greatest enemy to D&D is capitalism. That was prophetic. Yeah. But yes, that all... Look, read anything you own. Where any contract you have for any kind of item or service you have, there's very likely a clause in there or a section in there that says, hey, just so you know, if we decide to like not honor any of this, we can do that. And so then at that point, it's like, well, shit, what are we even signing? So yeah, I mean, if they put that in the new OGL, then that entire statement that we just went through is kind of null and void. It kind of doesn't matter. You know, it's like with the elector thing where it's like the electors have to vote for what the popular vote is. And it's like that they don't legally have to do that. They could vote for whatever they wanted to. And it's like, oh yeah, but that would never happen. And it's like, yeah, but it could. Right? Like, so it's very much that with this. It's like D&D, the Wizards is like, hey guys, we hear you. We're not going to take your content and sell it. We don't own your stuff. No problem. It's just disingenuous. And people in the D&D community can see through that better than anybody. You know, Pepsi can get away with this shit because they prey on the fact that people are addicted to sugar. But D&D is full of people who are smart, who are calculated, who spend a lot of time and energy and effort and money on this hobby. They take it seriously. It's a part of them. It's a part of their identity. It's not just a thing they buy. And when you treat it like it's just a thing they buy, I don't think it's going to go well for you. Maybe for new ones. Maybe for new players. Maybe for people coming in that don't really know. But I don't think it's going to work. We don't own your stuff, but we own your stuff. I am working on music. Artists. I'm working on new stuff. Paizo may be reaping the rewards from those leaving Beyond and going to Pathfinder Nexus, which is their version of Beyond that they just opened. Oh, hell yeah. It makes me wonder if in the next year or next 18 months, we're going to see Wizards either offer to or actually buy Paizo. Watch people get into their fight over their books and charters. My community isn't a community, they're friends and family. Yeah. The suits at Wiznerds of the Coast really failed their bluff check today. Wonder if they're going to need to take a short rest and figure out how to fix it. Yeah. They can. They have a lot of money in terms of buying their competition away. But I think that, you know, volume allows for you to push morality to the side. Ask McDonald's. Ask any of like the companies that make the most money in this country or on this planet. Like, volume allows you to abandon principles. Look at the NFL, right? That guy died on the field and they're just like, oh man, prayers for tomorrow. Let's go. And I'm not saying that, like, I'm not suggesting that the players don't technically know what they're signing up for, but they don't care about you. You're a number on a screen to a lot of those people, the people that make decisions. And I was talking earlier about how you see this across the board. You can ask any artist that makes money for their art. It's full of people that have money, that have deep pockets, and little to no understanding of, like, what's actually going on. No movie producers know, like, I mean, sure, some of the good ones do, but, like, producers don't know anything about writing. If they did, they'd be called writers. Producers know about producing. And so in stuff like this, where it's like, I'm sure that this is how it went down, and I bet you that there's a couple employees at Wizards that are, like, fighting for the people that really do give a shit, that are like, hey, this isn't cool. And they're like, listen, Sam, this is a multi-billion-dollar corporation, which is true. Let's remind people of that if we've forgotten. We don't care about what the community says as to what their feelings are. We care about what they're doing with their money, which is why they made this statement, because all those people started dropping off of Beyond, because they just let that, you know, that shit leaked. as if they didn't know. And then a week went by without them saying anything, and then they put this out. I feel like it's too little too late, you know? They want to act like, trust us, we're going to make this up to you. And it's like, I feel like you had the chance to do that. You're going to do what you're going to do. We don't have to like it. You should be aware of that. Because unlike these corporations like ADT and McDonald's and Walmart that can just abandon any kind of morals or values because of volume, y'all can't really do that. I don't think that they can do that. And as to what Critical Role thinks, I don't know. I feel like Critical Role probably is already like on board for like being able to produce stuff with them and it not be a problem, right? Probably. Critical Role is like the McDonald's of D&D. You could argue that Critical Role is like more well known in the community than like D&D Beyond itself. Critical Role LLC is going to wait until there's a 2.0 out there on paper. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they're definitely gonna. I would imagine that they're gonna wait and see what it says until they say anything because they don't want to get sued. They had NDAs. That totally makes sense to me. Yeah, dude, like I can't imagine there wasn't a conversation with people like Critical Role before this. I just, you know. They were so quiet, had other agreements in place with D&D Beyond. Yeah, dude, contracts matter. And once you're in, you're in. Once you sign on to that OGL, that's it. That's why they were so quiet. Well, Matt Mercer has liked some of the tweets critical of Wizards' new OGL. Yeah, but like, what does that even mean? You know? That's not an official statement or an official stance. They did a Twitter announcement today. Oh, really? Yeah. We'll see what happens, y'all. I don't know. I know that this just turned into like a complete hour of complaining and like we didn't do any questions and we didn't do any bard advice. But I do feel like that this was an important conversation to have. At least on the VOD, we'll have the chat replay that's available. Oh, and hey, how about this, gang? We didn't have any drop issues tonight. And that is due to my new ISP. So this is good news because it means that we can move forward with a little more confidence in the show. So even though we didn't answer any questions here tonight, any specific questions, I do have some set up for next week we'll be able to answer. Just a reminder before I wrap up here, the email to send questions is bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice. We all know that it's bardadvice@gmail.com. Send your questions there. You can go to manshorts.com to get merch if and you wanna. I want to try and work on getting some new merch this year for that. And I think that that's it, y'all. I mean, we're past an hour. Hopefully this wasn't too too aggressive, you know? I'm not an angry guy. I'm an emotional guy. Obviously nothing is nothing is official, right? At least according to them. That stuff we saw was just drafts. So who knows? I'll tell you one thing. If people already have signed on to the OGL, I don't know. Something tells me we won't hear about that for another 10 years. That'll be a thing where they like look back and say like, oh, well, you know, the community was angry about the leak, when in reality, several companies had already signed on to the new OGL. And even with the corrections to make OGL 2.0, those original companies that signed that draft OGL were held to that. So glad that you guys enjoyed the stream. I'm glad that you came and hang out. You heard that it was sent out to be signed. Yeah, I've heard that too. If you believe that was just a draft, I have a bridge to sell you. Yeah, definitely, dude. Look, they got caught with their pants down And then I think that they thought maybe like, oh, what if we just be quiet and like see what happens? And then, you know, somebody probably was like, don't do that. Say something. Some nerd at the company was probably like, we should at least say something, right? And then they got together with all their PR people and came up with that nightmare. It doesn't seem genuine. It seems like there are a lot of misleading, confusing verbiage in it. It's just kind of meant to like distract, talking about all of that other stuff when it's like, dude, you know why people are mad. Y'all know why people are pissed. And you're not going to address any of those things. You're just going to talk about a bunch of other stuff. It's not good. So I think that it's important that like at least we have a conversation about this. Like, look, they said it in their thing. Let's go back. Where's the thing? This is what they said. Don't get mad at me, dude. Our plan was always, you said it yourself, dude. Your plan was always to solicit the input of the community before any update to the OGL. We'll consider this input from the community. People are upset. Now, if you want to do your thing where you're going to start putting volume over values, do that thing and own that thing. Don't hide behind this stuff about how like, oh, well, hope we didn't confuse you about NFTs. Nobody gives a shit about that. Address the real issues or own the fact that you're not going to. That's it. Do that. Rant over. Hopefully, the real, official, legal version of this is not awful. And yes, at least they did say something. I mean, they did stay silent for several days, but yes, it's not as if they did anything official without saying anything. It's just not a good look, dude. It's just not a good look. All right, well, I got to get out of here because I ended up going a little bit over. Lots of complaints. I probably repeated myself a lot. You know, I didn't intend to make this video to just like yell at wizards, but that's what it ended up being. Because it's like, dude, stop doing this half-stepping stuff, right? Own the fact that you want to be McDonald's or fix it. Don't do this thing where you're like, we're McDonald's, but we love you. Don't do that. Because people see through it, and we don't respect it. All right, I'll see y'all next week. Same Bard time, same Bard channel. Send questions, bardadvice@gmail.com. And I'll see you next week at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This audio will be available and the VOD available tomorrow at noon. I hope everybody has a great night.